Welcome to the Reality of Herbal Therapy podcast. So today I've got Lynn, my wife, with me, Dr. James's oldest daughter. And we wanted to talk to you and share with you something that you can do that's extremely easy. Anybody can do it. It doesn't take a lot of time, but it will boost your heart health. It helps you maintain your weight or even lose weight. It will improve your mental health, helps brain function, helps with digestion, helps with joints and muscles, your immunity. It's a really, really great thing. So you're probably wondering, what is a simple thing I can do? Well, it's just walking, getting out and going for a walk. So why would you suppose that walking is such a good thing, for our bodies and stuff?
Well, in our day and age today, there's so many things that keep us sitting constantly. I mean, unless you have a job that requires you, if you're a construction worker, you probably get a lot of movement in. But if you have a desk job or if you're at home with children, I have been shocked raising all my children at how much and how little exercise I get chasing children everywhere. Like, you would think that that's a lot of exercise, and it is sometimes, but I think sometimes for young mothers, just the fact that you're getting out and doing something different is part of the benefit of it. But walking helps with so many realms of life. Dr. James had many, many clients that just needed to get movement into their life. And he always was an advocate of walking because it is one of the more alkaline exercises. So if you're trying to keep your body in an alkaline state rather than acidic, walking is generally alkaline. It's also low stress on the body. Running really jars the body. It's wonderful for the people who need to run, and that's their goal, and whatever other reason people run, that's
Some
great.
people love it.
Yeah, and some people absolutely love it, and it is therapeutic for them. But as a general rule for the general public, walking achieves a lot of the health benefits and the needs, but doesn't overstress the body, and can be done in little spurts or in long lazy walks or anything else. And there's so many ways to incorporate it into just your health regimen, even no matter what life is, whether you're an older person and life is very sedentary just because it's so achy to move, or you just don't have children to chase around and stuff. But there's so many benefits for the young, for the old, for the in the middle, for all of those things.
Yeah. And I was surprised, like when we were living in New Mexico out in the desert, I had walked a lot because there was a lot of walking between going from one house to the office and between buildings that we had
when we lived out in Laguna.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when we moved to Oregon, I didn't have to leave the house hardly. And like the difference that made really, really fast.
Yeah.
So the opposite is true. Just getting up and walking makes a huge difference.
I remember teasing you that we needed to put an outhouse in the yard so that so there would be mandatory walking involved or something.
Yep.
So
let's kind of like cover some of the health benefits of walking. So the first one, of course, is everybody talks about is heart health. It's going to just getting out and walking, and basically a rule of thumb, like a lot of people talk about that 10,000 steps a day, which it was an arbitrary number that some people came up with. It sounded good. It's kind of a stretch for
some people.
For the average American, it's a little bit of a stretch, but not a big stretch. But a rule of thumb is 30 to 60 minutes of walking in a day that makes a big difference.
Yeah, and it's not, a lot of people, it doesn't have to be absolutely every day. 3 to 5 times a week of a half an hour walk, if you're doing nothing right now, could do amazing. I remember Dr. James talking about like with health benefits of it, and everybody thinking they have to live up to that 10,000 number or whatever. Depending on where you're at and where you're starting from, you are your only competition. So if you don't get up off the couch, or you only get off the couch to go to the microwave, your next step might be walking out to the mailbox. And you just decide to set a goal that once a day you are going to walk to the mailbox instead of sending your spouse to the mailbox or something like that. Or Dr. James would tell him, just walk down to the stop sign and back. So you improve a small percentage up on yourself, not on everyone else in the world. You just see how you can squeeze it in your day just a little more.
Yeah.
And that's part of the health benefits of it. Some people think that they're so held back because, no, I can't walk half an hour. My neighborhood isn't safe enough, or I can't leave my kids. They're napping or whatever it is. There's
always enough room for at least 1% improvement.
Yeah, 1% improvement because we need the heart health. It also supports with weight management. So many people, when they find themselves sedentary, like just the difference between summer and winter, how much more, at least where we are, you do less in the winter than you do in the summer. So just figuring out how to fit that in even during the winter, because otherwise the winter is when people put on more weight. And a big part of that is because of the sedentariness of what we're doing during the winter.
Yeah. And the nice thing, like we kind of touched on heart health, basically it gets the blood moving and it cleans out the lymphatics and everything like that. So it takes a lot of stress off of the heart, which if you're taking that stress off the heart, it's going to lower the cholesterol because it's moving through the body. Your lymphatics are actually able to do what they're supposed to do. So you're down on your risk of heart disease and stroke and things like that. With weight management, you're burning calories. So there's that part of it. But just the fact of getting out and walking, it helps keep your glucose levels from spiking or going really high. So if,
so walking after a meal instead of sitting down on the couch, lethargic. I've actually noticed that with myself, that it makes a huge difference in how I feel afterwards. Right after I eat, I feel like a nap. But if I can overcome myself and do something to move instead, start vacuuming, start cleaning out the car, go on a walk, whatever, I actually feel better throughout the day.
Yeah. Which is that's a huge benefit. And because of that, it also helps with your mental health. It helps with a lot of people, if they're
that's my favorite feature,
stressed or whatever, like some people, they get stressed to the point like, I got to take a walk, and just taking a walk will relieve that stress and that anxiety or whatever.
Well, I love that, because taking a walk, it's not just that it's moving the circulation in our body. If we're getting out in nature and looking at the beautiful things God created for us, being grateful for the sky and the sunshine. I mean, sunshine also gives us vitamin D, and that's called the happiness pill, isn't it? Yeah. Or the happiness vitamin. Yeah. So there's so many more benefits to it, especially if you can get outside to do it. I mean, there's a lot of times that I'm on a treadmill, not outside, and I don't get those benefits of the outside. There's so much benefit for your body. Breathing in the cold air or just the fresh air from outside, and having the air on your face and the sunshine and seeing the things around you, also smiling at people as you pass them and stuff. That's very different than a treadmill, but I love my treadmill for consistency and then do my walk beyond that. But what it does for mental health, and when my whole household can't stand each other and we're just somehow on edge with each other, it's like it's time to go on a walk, or sometimes the kids are on bikes and we're walking, but still I get them outside, and then when we walk back in the house, the whole dynamic is completely different, especially in the world of today where so many kids are on TV or gaming, or they spend their life in school sitting at a desk walking from class to class, and their life is so regimented, and a walk that is not regimented sometimes is so freeing for them. Just the change of scenery, come back and see it with a different view is just awesome. So I love that. Improves mental health. What about improves brain function? I've noticed that for my kids. We homeschool, and sometimes they just cannot function, and just they can't figure out their math, or emotionally they're just in a crazy place. And it's like, okay, we're going to take 10. Let's go jump on the rebounder, go on a walk, go ride the bike, let's get moving. And once we get moving, their brains work so much better and they're more willing. It doesn't mean they're not children anymore and aren't going to fight doing their math work, but it does it does help something, even if maybe it helps me the most because I get out and get walking so then I can deal with their math. So I love that it
Yeah.
enhances brain function.
Yeah, and then that walking, like, we talked about, it gets the blood moving. You're getting more oxygen to the brain and stuff. A
Yeah.
great example, like, my mom passed away recently from Alzheimer's, but as she was going downhill, if she would get to where she got extremely forgetful and cranky and kind of lost and confused, my sister would take her out on a walk, and it would completely change. And we only had to walk down, like down to the corner and back, but it would change mom's, her cognitive function and her abilities just from that short little walk.
Isn't it amazing that something so simple that doesn't cost us anything that we can just get out and do can make such a difference?
Yeah. We hear a lot of older people that are losing bone density, or their bones are, becoming not as strong. And that's the nice thing about walking, is it helps with your bone and joint health. Lynn mentioned like running and jogging can be kind of jarring on the knees and the hips and stuff. And it kind of is, if you're not careful with it, it can be difficult. You have to have running shoes to put some pressure on the knees, but just simple walking, basically it helps strengthen your knees and your bones and your hips and stuff. So that is really helpful.
Yeah. And then also it helps to aid in digestion and gut health. I know this one for an absolute. So when we moved to Oregon, the climate change from desert to trees and rain, and it was quite different, but it really affected my getting out. In New Mexico, we would go walking constantly. And in Oregon, I kept waiting for a sunny day and it never came. That was a problem. And at some point, I realized in my family, we've always had colon issues, like my mom did, my sisters, all sorts of stuff. And I realized that part of my problem getting worse in Oregon was that I was not getting out and moving. And as I decided, okay, I'm going to walk every day, whether it's raining or not. And so for me, that was get a gym membership so that I could go get on a treadmill. And also there's a lot walking in place, kind of walking in your living room videos that I absolutely love. Leslie Sanson saved my life. To do walking things even in the house was amazing and life-changing for me for my gut health. It helped to make it so that I didn't need to take so much Clean Lax and colonic caps and all of that stuff to even try to keep up. I was able to just add walking into my regimen, and it's such a benefit. So it's a lifetime thing for me now because I must do it to keep my body functioning. Our guts need to rock back and forth and have that motion that our hips do in moving to be able to do it. And a lot of people ask, well, can I ride a stationary bike and get the same effect? Well, no, you can't, because you're sitting your butt down on that seat and your legs are moving. You're moving circulation and all sorts of stuff, but it is not rocking your guts. It is not, you're not swinging your arms typically. I mean, some people, if they're on a stationary bike or whatever, they could choose to swing their arms, but there's just a benefit in the entire body moving and the rhythm of walking that benefits your guts and everything else inside, your digestive tract, your stomach, your, like, just all of those things. It's absolutely wonderful. And along with that, it ends up boosting your immunity and longevity. So while we were in Oregon, we had the lovely experience of going through COVID in Oregon. And the immune boost of walking was amazing. And that's part of why so many people got so much sicker with COVID, was because with lockdown, what do? Everybody was terrified to leave their homes, and the walking would be tied down in that, and their biking and their everything else. The gyms are closed, the everything. Yeah. So that's where it's beneficial to figure out, how can I do this in my house and get moving, even if I can't get outside? I'm so grateful we get to get outside now and be able to get off and get walking.
Well, and talking about that, it made me think of, like, if you have digestive issues, if like you have difficulty digesting, or you eat something that it's difficult for you to digest, just getting out and walking will help with that digestion. It helps
It
move
helps
it
to assist
along.
the digestion
Mhm.
process. So you're helping your body by getting out and getting moving and doing that. Yep.
Yep. So it's amazing.
And I know that Leslie Sanson, I know this is not an ad to sell Leslie Sanson, but seriously, she saved my life. She even has videos for walking right by your desk. So just standing up and a
Yeah.
few minutes of
Right.
walking in place by your desk, lifting your knees as high as you can or whatever. It made a huge difference for me at times when I couldn't walk away. A bunch of sick kids and I can't just go outside or go to the gym or whatever. I could stand right there while I'm stirring something on the stove. I step back for a minute, do a few. Even that made huge differences for my health.
Well, and like I have a rebounder right by my desk because just for that reason. So like if I'm starting to feel low or starting to feel whatever, I can get up and get on the rebounder for just 5 minutes, and then it picks me up and gets me moving again.
Yeah, well, that makes me think of I love the rebounder and walking, both of these. So as far as attitude, I read somewhere, and I tested it on accident, that anger it does an immune response in your body like you're getting the flu. So if you get really, really angry, whether that's at work or at a child or at yourself or whatever, you get really angry. You know that feeling when your pulse rises, when your face probably turns red, when all of that, it actually sends your body into an immune response that it can make you sick for, I can't remember how many hours it is. It can give you flu-like symptoms. But if in that anger, in that moment, if you can say, okay, I got to breathe, I got to get over this, and you get up and move, and you help to move it through your system, if you rebound for 5 minutes, if you go on a walk to the mailbox and back, whatever, it can actually turn that down to minutes instead of hours or days that anger can set you back. So sometimes I've been at the point of frustration or whatever. I don't get mad very easy, but when I do realize and feel that coming on, if I get up and move, I feel so much better. And it also helps me to think more clearly to be able to deal with whatever's making me angry or mad. So that's a really good one to add. So how do we make walking a daily habit? Like, I think we've already kind of talked about some of those things, just fitting it in right where you're at.
Yep. So fitting it in, finding ways to do it. When Lynn was pregnant with our children, Dr. James, who happens to be my father-in-law and stuff, he'd be like, they put in a pregnant mom parking space at some grocery store that we went to all the time that was like right up front. And he told me, he's like, don't you dare park there. You park out in the back as far out of the parking lot as you can. So she has to walk all the way into the store.
Yeah.
So like if you can, when going to the store, park out in the back 40.
Park further away, yeah.
Yep, park further away. Then you have to walk. There's all sorts of fitness tracking type things, like watches or whatever that will track your steps. And so, when getting started, look at track and see what your steps are and just say, okay, I'm going to increase my step number by 1% or 5% and set the goal for that and work towards increasing your steps. That's another way to get it in.
Well, speaking of that with a watch, it's really funny. So years ago, we got Apple Watches and I didn't think anything of it that I was going to use that part that tells you if you exercise or don't and measures your heart rate and all that stuff. I thought that wasn't why I had it. I wanted my texts on my watch. But then I realized how much that helped me for it to measure some things daily, the accountability, but also that measurement that it did, that it gave me stats, because when you have measurable results, at least for me, it motivated me to keep doing it. So when my rings would be closed that day, I'd be like, okay, let's see if I can get 2 days in a row. Okay, let's see if I can get 3 days in a row. Let's see if I can. So I was my own best competition on that. And then, oh my goodness, I found out that me and a friend could share those results. And then it became even more of a competition because I didn't want her to walk more than I walked. And I did, even though that seems silly, and it wasn't a competition in a bad way, but I am not necessarily an advocate of technological, like making stuff work. But I was very surprised that how much of a difference that made in my life to see it and to see that just getting up and moving for 10 minutes every hour changed my health and changed all sorts of things. But having the fact that my watch tracked that for me and gave me, I could see a calendar. It made me so mad when my watch died one day and I didn't realize it. And it broke my like 90-day streak. Oh my goodness. That just, I don't know. But it was an amazing accountability partner to me.
Yeah. Well, and like accountability partner, or there's like walking groups that you can find and get in with. There was a friend of ours. She was talking, and when her husband's a medical doctor, and while he was doing his residency up somewhere, they had just moved far away from friends. She didn't know anybody and stuff, and she really wanted to get out walking. And one of the neighbors came over and said, "Hey, we have a walking group that goes walking every morning." And she said it changed the whole dynamic of getting out and going walking, because you're with friends, you meet new people, but
she also knew when she woke up in the morning and didn't feel like getting out of bed that they were out there waiting for her.
Yep.
And that motivated her to be able to also get out of the house, which was just absolutely amazing. A walking buddy makes all the difference in the world. Right now, Jim and I have a gym membership and go really early in the morning and walk on the treadmills. And I have to admit, there's been a lot of mornings. If I didn't know that he was already up and ready to go, I wouldn't have gotten out of bed. So, and it probably goes both ways that way, that it really makes a difference for us to have that. But another thing, so some people really like tracking and numbers and all sorts of stuff. If you don't have a smartwatch or anything, I love having a calendar hanging on the wall, and I do a certain something on there that tells me that I did it. So I put a heart on the calendar every day that I walked before I had a watch that tracked it for me, so that I could look back on it and go, wow, that was my gratitudes. I felt well enough to do it. I did it. But also my ta-das. Ta-da, look, I did get up and exercise today. I did get out and move. Even if your heart is up there because you walked to the mailbox today, that is an achievement. You are your only competition, unless you get a friend on your watch and you're competing with them.
Yeah. So another thing, like if you have difficulty like wanting to get up and get going, or going for a walk, like Lynn mentioned, we go every morning. For a while there, she said that she was listening to certain audiobooks, and she would only let herself listen to the audiobook while she was walking.
Oh my goodness, that worked really, really well, as long as I held to that, because then I wanted my turn to listen to the book more than I wanted to go walking, and I only did it while I was walking. So yeah, that was super powerful for me. So it had to be interesting. And I found if I turned on the wrong book or the wrong thing, if I was trying to like get some, I don't know, smart book gotten through that was kind of tedious for me, that was not the book to listen to when I was walking, because somehow it did some mental something to me that tied the tediousness of the book and made me think walking was tedious. So I had to switch up what I was listening to. And there's some mornings when I need to listen to upbeat music and just be almost dancing on the treadmill. And then other days when I just need a really good book to get through to be able to do that. So it just depends on where they're at and what they need to do. If they need to get schoolwork done and they say they don't have enough time for walking, if you could listen to some of your school stuff, listen to it while you're walking, if that works for you.
And that it kind of goes along those lines, is don't be afraid to change it up.
Yeah.
Whether you change up the music or, the podcasts, or
sometimes I change it mid-step because I'm just like, this is just not working for me.
Yeah. Always be willing to adjust. Or if you're walking outside, go a different way.
Yeah. Sometimes you could go the same way, just in reverse, and it completely, I'm shocked at how much that changes what you notice if you go clockwise instead of counterclockwise around the block.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we would walk at the park by our house, and we decided to go a different direction, and it completely changed what we saw, and
it even changed the workout, because then we got the hills at a different point in our walk. So it was very, very different. Yep. So just change it up.
Yeah. So let's talk about some myths or some often asked questions.
You don't have to do 10,000 steps.
Yes.
Now, it is wonderful to reach 10,000 steps. If you are there, or if you can do higher than 10,000 steps, that's absolutely wonderful. But start where you're at and slowly improve on yourself. Slowly improve on where your come from is.
Yeah. Yep. See where you are, because if you're only getting 1,000 steps and you're trying to jump to 10,000 steps, that's such a big jump that
Mm-hmm.
if you do make it, you're going to give up pretty quick.
Yeah.
But if you slowly work yourself up to,
Yeah. So if you're getting 1,000 steps, say, maybe I'd like to do 1,500 this week, and do it for about a week and then up it again. It's the same. I mean, I had read that years ago about getting up in the morning. If you all of a sudden decide I want to get up at 5 a.m., but you're used to sleeping in until noon, you're not going to make that leap. You have to do it in baby steps. So pick a number, a smaller number, and celebrate your successes and work it up to something bigger if that's what you want.
yeah. So another often question that people often ask, when is the best time to walk?
I have definite opinions about that.
Yep, she does.
It's when you feel like it and when works best for you. And it's so many books you can read about this body type does better in the morning, this body type does better in the evening. Oh, everybody should do it in the morning because it burns more calories. Everybody, I read a life-changing book, The Power of When. Oh my goodness, that was totally amazing. It's not that I use everything in that book, but realizing that there are different kinds of people that their bodies truly, truly do not work on the same schedule as everybody else's schedule. Like, there's so many different things. There's morning people, there's evening people, there's everything else. You walk when you can fit it in your schedule. If it is during a 10-minute nap of your child, just decide to run around the living room. I mean, your kids do it all day. You might as well. It is whenever works for you and whatever you can consistently do and keep up with. That is the best time to walk.
So another common question is, how fast should you walk?
Well, a lot of that depends on your health, your abilities, what kind of goals you're trying to achieve and stuff. But as a general rule, you're getting the best benefits if you can still talk, but you really have your heart rate up, but you don't necessarily, it stresses the body more if you're doing it to the point to where you can't talk at all and whatever. That means you're just exerting yourself too much. Now, if you're a gym rat, that's awesome. Please keep doing that. But I'm talking about just normal people and whatever. You don't have to think that you have to do this speed walk that's almost a run in order for it to be a healthy walk. Any walking is healthy walking. But if you can step it up and you can do it faster, and you can, because the more you walk, the more you're going to be able to do it. Like in the beginning, some people, even getting to the mailbox, just don't talk to me. They can't keep up with all of it at the same time. But after doing it for a couple of weeks, they would be able to talk to somebody all the way to the mailbox. So talking, you don't have to be able to sing while you're walking. For some reason, singing is a higher level of something. It
uses more air.
It takes more air. It takes more all sorts of stuff. So don't think because you can't sing a song with your favorite music that it's not working. It's as long as you can walk and talk at the same time, you're in a pretty safe zone.
Well, so we've talked a lot about the great benefits of walking. I would really encourage you to take the opportunity to increase what you're walking and just increase it by a little bit. Or if you're not walking, get out and start going for a walk. It will make a huge difference in your overall health, your immunity, your heart health, your brain health, your digestion, all sorts of stuff. It's a really simple, easy thing to do, and it will make a huge difference in your health. So like and subscribe to this podcast where you've listened to us, and we will talk to you next time.